I would be talking to you about interdisciplinarity in architecture and built environment research. So a little bit of background about myself, and then I will ask my co-presenter, Dr. Naram, to introduce herself as well. So my name is UoT Piroozfar. I'm a reader in architecture, technology, and digital construction, the course leader for architecture technology, BSc honors, and digital construction MSc at University of Brighton, School of Architecture, Technology, and Engineering. So I have completed my MArch, Master of Architecture and Urban Design at University of Tehran between 1988 and 1996, then worked for nearly 10 years in architectural design practices in Iran before moving to the UK to do my PhD at University of Sheffield. So I have done my PhD at University of Sheffield School of Architecture between 2003 and 2008, and I have worked on a mass customization in the design, fabrication and implementation processes for facades, off-site facades. So that's a brief sort of introduction about myself. So I hand over to Dr. Naram to introduce herself as well, please.
Hello, everyone. As most of you might know me, I'm from the University of Technology Department of Architecture. I'm a lecturer, and I've graduated my bachelor and my master's from University of Technology and my PhD from the University of Brighton under the great supervision of Dr. Piroozfar. And now I am back at the University of Technology. My research interest focuses on the theories of architecture, decision-making, judgment in architecture, communication, design studies, and social aspects of architectural theory. Pleased to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so without further ado, let's start with our presentation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so this is the outline of the presentation today. So I'm really pleased to be invited to this series of very invaluable sort of research interactions, which I was made aware by Dr. Naram quite a while ago. So we would be talking about interdisciplinarity and its perhaps significance and necessity in research in architecture and built environment nowadays. So the outline of this presentation is we start with terminology, what it means and what it probably doesn't, the need and necessity of XD or interdisciplinarity research in AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction research, the requirements, probably the benefits, how to do it with some examples, and we finish with some concluding comments. So what is this thing called interdisciplinarity? If you just, do a basic sort of search on the net, there are different combination of the word disciplinarity with prefixes. Intradisciplinarity, multidisciplinarity, cross-disciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, and then transdisciplinarity. Without getting ourselves confused at this point in time, we will go through all of these in more details, but this is what we mean by interdisciplinarity when we use a generic term to cover all the areas associated with disciplinarity. So why is it important? Architecture, probably by nature, is beyond one discipline. We all know that basically architecture has always been sitting at the crossroad of arts, sciences, technology, history, and so on and so forth. All of us in at least one, if not more, stages of our either sort of like professional or academic lives had to be dealing with perhaps more than one discipline. Some of us perhaps consider ourselves as more technical architects, but some are more sitting on the sort of art side. But nevertheless, we actually kind of like interact and intersect between different disciplines. We all know that a long time ago, probably kind of like, beyond 200 years ago, architects used to be polymaths. Meaning that they had to master more than one discipline. They had to know geometry, they had to know the science of buildings, they had to know how to draw, and so on and so forth. Therefore, working with different disciplines for architects and in architecture is something innate, something inherent. But is that interdisciplinary? Probably yes and no. So what does it mean to work perhaps like in exterdisciplinary areas? It means that we need collaboration. We need to integrate perhaps different disciplines to some degrees. We need to be quite strong in group work. Probably as a result, we are expecting to have better generalization of the knowledge claim when we are talking about research. We would expect to have more specific or more specialized applicability of our findings to a wider, perhaps like scope of research. And we would be expecting higher level or broader scope of expertise to be involved in exterdisciplinarity in research. So it's a yes and it's a no to all of the above mentioned concepts that we just covered. But more importantly, yes and no, because you can actually kind of like argue that all of these things are required, but they are not sufficient on its own. And having one of them perhaps not necessarily means that we are working beyond one discipline. So more importantly, if we want to a little bit kind of like move beyond the application, it brings us to the concept of betweenness. So the definition of betweenness, if we just look at some sort of like dictionaries, and I have picked up like Merriam-Webster as an example, it states that the quality or state of being between two others in an ordered mathematical set. This is what betweenness actually means. However, beyond this probably geometrical or mathematical definition for betweenness, there is more philosophically perhaps fueled or driven definition by Gilles Deleuze and Guattari, who asserts that the middle is by no means an average. Because when we're talking about perhaps in-betweenness, that brings us the concept of middle to our mind. And by definition, when we're talking about middle, perhaps that brings another associated concept, which is being average. So they say that the middle is by no means an average. To the contrary, it is where things pick up speed. It's a very interesting point, because if we say that, for example, one thing oscillates between two different sort of extremes, at the middle, it picks up the speed of the movement. Between things does not designate a localizable relation going from one thing to the other back again, but a perpendicular direction, a transversal movement that sweeps one and the other away. A stream without being or end that undermines its banks and picks up speed in the middle. So my point in here is that when we're talking about middle or in-betweenness, by no means we mean mediocrity or something which is average or of less importance. By contrast, actually kind of like middle perhaps is more important. That also brings us to another concept which was again developed by Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, like I said, which is rhizome. So in one word, a rhizome has no beginning or end, and it's always in the middle. And as we mentioned, actually kind of like middle by no means is average or less important. To the contrary, it's much more important than the ends. So between things, interbeing and intermezzo. So these are kind of like definitions that Deleuze and Guattari actually provide for rhizome. So the concept was developed by these two, Deleuze and Guattari, in their Capitalism and Schizophrenia. Capitalism and Schizophrenia, 1970 to 1980, a project developed by Deleuze and Guattari, basically talks about rhizome and says that it is to depict a theory that allows for multi-tiered, multiple, non-hierarchical entry-exit point in data collection, interpretation, and representation, and defeats dualism and binary logic propositions, which is inherent characteristic of an arborescent, which means actually kind of like hierarchical or tree-like interpretation of concept of knowledge. That's very important because by sticking with the idea of rhizome, we actually kind of like read ourselves from the traditional conceptual understanding of knowledge and basically conceptualizing knowledge, developing knowledge, and approaching knowledge, because like I mentioned here, it perhaps gets rid of the idea of like, hierarchical approach or tree-like approach to the concept of knowledge. So again, Deleuze and Guattari introduce 1,000 Platos by outlining the concept of the rhizome. And this is actually quoted directly from 1,000 Platos, which is a work, collective work by Deleuze and Guattari, where they pick up like principles and talk about principles of rhizome. So first and second principles of connection and heterogeneity. Any point of a rhizome can be connected to any other and must be connected to any other, in fact. The third principle is the principle of multiplicity. It's only when the multiple is effectively treated as a substantive multiplicity that is that it actually ceases to have any relation to the one. So it means that any single point within the sort of like set is interrelated to much more than one point. So principle of signifying rupture, a rhizome may be broken, but it will start up again on one of its old lines or on new lines. Principles number 5 and 6 of cartography and decolocomania. A rhizome is not amenable to any structural or generative model. It's a map and not a tracing. So they elaborate in the same section what distinguishes the map from the tracing is that it's entirely oriented towards experimentation in contact with the real. So with that, perhaps just very squeezed in underpinning, theoretical underpinning, I would like to show you a little bit of like a small project that we have done. All right, and because I'm sharing this one. Please let me know if you can see that. Can you see this?
No, Dr. Purang, it's just like a flat screen on the, the same slide.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The first slide only of the video.
So it's a frozen.
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't actually kind of like, show anything. It's just the slide itself, isn't it? Isn't it?
It just shows the cover of the slide, Dr. Piroozfar. It's just like frozen on the cover.
Okay, so it's here, right?
Yes.
Okay, and stop presenting. Okay, I'm sharing with you a window to see how it works. And okay, maybe. Can you see this now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay.
Dr. Purang, we can't hear the sound. The people are saying like they can't hear the sound.
Oh, you can't hear the sound?
No.
So it's just a video. Why didn't you say so?
It's just like video without audio. I mean, the audio is there, but it's like very thin, and we can't hear it like clearly.
Okay, and
I think, sorry for interruption, the problem with the Google Meet, if you use a speaker, you can just like take it off and use the speaker from the computer by itself. So it's not the headphone. That will make the sound more clear.
Okay, so how do I do that? Because Google Meet, this is probably practically the first time I'm using it.
Okay, so, you have right now, you use a headphone to speak with us?
No. I'm actually kind of like just talking to the mic.
The computer, the mic, the computer built in. So you can just rise up the sound.
Okay.
And so we can listen to the sound from your
Better.
computer.
Okay. Okay. What about now?
Still nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing, unfortunately.
I think no problem. If you can send us the link of the video, we can share it with the people later.
Okay, the video is actually kind of like embedded in the presentation, but I can send you the link of the video anyway. Yeah.
You can share with me the presentation slides, like the PowerPoint. That will be very glad from you.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. And entire screen number 3. Okay, can you see what I'm seeing right now?
Yes, we are back into the presentation.
Back into the presentation, okay. Okay, I think I know where the problem is. Okay, let's go for the end of the, to the end of the presentation. I try another sort of like alternative to see if I can show that later. Is that okay?
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
okay.
okay. Okay, so I go back to, okay, so what? Like I said, interdisciplinarity or interdisciplinary is working within a single discipline, intradisciplinary, working within a single discipline. Then, so what we have done, we have gone quickly through what we are trying to cover and why we are trying to cover what we are trying to cover in here. Then back to the definitions of exdisciplinarity based on Jensenius, which is actually kind of like based on Stember 1990 and Ziegler 1990. So Jensenius is a researcher, academic in arts and graphics and photography. So he defines interdisciplinary as working within a single discipline, multidisciplinary as when people from different disciplines actually work together, each drawing on their disciplinary knowledge. Cross-disciplinary as viewing one discipline from the perspective of another discipline, while interdisciplinary work integrating actually kind of like knowledge and methods from different disciplines, where we use a real synthesis of approaches. And to the end of that spectrum, I'm missing this, yes. To the end of that spectrum, basically, comes transdisciplinarity, which is creating a unity of intellectual framework beyond the disciplinary perspectives. In her paper, Advancing the Social Sciences Through the Interdisciplinary Enterprise in Social Science Journal, Marilyn Stember, 1991, argues that many people believe they work interdisciplinary, while in fact it is more common to work multidisciplinary. The point is that working between different disciplines does not necessarily mean interdisciplinarity or transdisciplinarity. What we are trying to cover in here as well is to perhaps tap into the concept of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research and advocate or explain why we advocate transdisciplinarity in research in architecture and built environment. So back to what I have done, perhaps in part of my research, and more specifically for my PhD, you can say that probably kind of like I'm fascinated by facades. My PhD was about facades and mass customization of them, and through the use of fuzzy logic. So, but why? Because by nature, basically, facades are important, not only in history and theory of architecture, but at the very least, they are the physical medium to materialize the architect's self-expression, manifestation, and basically to help us manifest the architectural style. And for that matter, for the sort of like status and position of them, technically, performance-wise, environmentally, from a heritage point of view, from a materials point of view, and from a memory point of view, they are in a position that act as an interdisciplinary sort of like layer within buildings between inside and out. So more importantly, they act as a boundary, a border, and between inside and outside of a building. And by the way, if you are wondering what this slide is about, this slide is about Beijing National Aquatic Center, also known as the Water Cube. So back to a couple of examples of the PhD projects that I have led with an interdisciplinarity nature, perhaps. One project is, or PhD thesis is life cycle assessment of double skin facades for office refurbishments in the UK. As you can probably see in the diagram, the project sits between different disciplines, and to be more specific, it involves office refurbishment of non-residential projects. It involves an area of like research which is called double skin facades, which is where we have a secondary facade system attached to the main facade system, within which operational energy studies and embodied energy studies are our focus. And the third sort of like cycle in this Venn diagram is involved or is concentrated or concerned about life cycle assessment. And more specifically, we're talking about life cycle assessment in construction industry. So you can see that how different disciplines actually kind of like have cross sections and where we have chosen to work in this particular project. This is a visualization of how a double skin facade works. So the red surface with existing sort of like, windows, opening, fenestrations is the main facade of the building, and with a walkable space, we will have a secondary sort of space facade added to main facade of the building. So the double skin facades have got many sort of like advantages. In this specific project, we looked at this as a means of refurbishment of office buildings in the UK. So one alternative was basically to think of an office building, demolish it totally and completely, and rebuild it like for like to the specifics of the highest standards of performance. As an alternative, more environmentally perhaps concerned alternative, adding the double skin facade or second skin to the existing facade of the building was studied in here. So as you saw in the previous slides, basically, different disciplines and different areas were involved, and we had to find those intersections to be able to make the contribution to the knowledge. Another project by Dr. Yahya Ibrahim, who is probably very well known to many of you at the University of Technology, Baghdad. is about integrated facade systems for highly to fully glazed office buildings in hot and arid climates, where Yahya actually kind of like chose to work on office buildings in Baghdad. So again, looking at different disciplines, different sort of like, parameters and variables involved in this project. They come from different areas where he had to basically investigate high performance glazing, integrated facade systems, PV panels and how they work, shading devices, and then external envelope of the building, and then combine all of those factors varying from the angle, size, location, distance from the main facade to come up with the most optimizable sort of solutions for having these integrated facade systems. Oh yeah, we've got this one as well. So these are all different sort of like areas which have been reviewed. So as you can see, some of them have got some overlaps, but these are how perhaps boundary setting for this project has taken shape to create a multidisciplinary approach to review this work. A visualization of what we discussed, so integrated facade systems, added to highly to fully glazed office buildings to make sure that we can actually kind of like control and optimize the indoor environment of those buildings in terms of natural daylighting, glare, optimization of the use of artificial lighting, maximizing the energy generation and controlling shading and solar gain, which penetrates the building and reaches inside the building spaces. So the other projects that we would like to discuss with you is the judgment process in architectural design competitions as a deliberative communicative practice, which has been done by Dr. Nagam Al-Qaisi. I'll hand over to Nagam to talk about her project in more detail. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I will be talking about this project, which I have done during my PhD study in the UK under the supervision of Dr. Piroozfar. I mean, I'll come back to this diagram maybe later, but would you please, Dr. Purang, like switch to the next slide? Okay. So the idea was that we started from the problem with judgment in architectural design competitions. As most of architects know this issue. Architectural design competitions are done through a group of experts that come from different disciplines relating to building and construction and allied professions, in addition to the different stakeholders involved, including the clients, which could be like from any profession, finance experts, especially in like governmental financed projects, politicians also, and end users. So the research problem that was identified at that time was like poor communication between all those parties involved in the judgment process. So the fact that those jury members come from different disciplines have contributed to having a gray area in communication, what we call it, like I call them in the thesis communication leaps. So every time in every profession or in every discipline, people get to interpret what they see differently. Like what a civil engineer see, an architect see it differently, a finance person see it differently, and a politician see it differently. Dr. Purang, would you please, the other slide? So part of the research problem was to find, as we said before, the research problem was positioned between poor communication issues and then seeing the deliberative, the judgment process as a democratic opportunity. So the deliberative, we've developed a procedure, a framework or a procedure. We called it the deliberative procedure, which its main concern was how to enhance communication between all these different stakeholders involved in the process. It was intended to aid the knowledge exchange between all those parties involved and consequently improve the judgment process and future organizing of fair and transparent architectural competitions. The procedure, as I said before, was built on theoretical stance from communicative action, which is a social theory, and from deliberative democracy, which is a political theory. So the deliberative judgment procedure aims to provide a healthy platform for exchanging reason and justification, where the collective interest of all stakeholders are equally represented with the aim of reaching consensus. This was the aim of the deliberative procedure. Purang, would you please go back to the diagram on my first slide? This one. So as you can see, the core concern of the deliberative procedure falls between the communication, which is like a different discipline, critical theory, and decision making. In the middle of this falls communicative action and deliberative democracy, which was then utilized to develop the deliberative procedure that was envisaged in the end of the thesis or the research. Please, Purang, come back to the slide. So okay. So in the towards the end of the research, we started noticing that this procedure we are suggesting has like pulled us into a new discipline. Into new thinking, which is the disciplinary thinking. It's started looking at the current status of judgment in architectural competitions in terms of disciplinary thinking. We could see that the current status of judgment was multidisciplinary. It means that people from different disciplines, when they are sit on the table in the judgment process, each one pulls from their own experience, from their own disciplines. And then sometimes the differences in even the basic terminology can sweep the argument. So trying to find a common ground or to unify this terminology could enhance the judgment process. So the procedure was built on this thesis. However, with the help of we aimed at that with the help of deliberative judgment procedure proposed by our research, and through the deliberation, jury members should be able to form a new intellectual frame of reference beyond the disciplinary perspective that acts as the base for their judgment, and that can be seen as transdisciplinary. The next one, please, Purang. So this is in the end of the research. This is what we could say, that how we can transform judgment into a transdisciplinary practice. So the status quo of the judgment process falls into the blue bit. It's multidisciplinary and cross-disciplinary in best cases, but we hope that with the aid of our procedure that we are suggesting, it's transforming into transdisciplinary, which is the ultimate aim, where those people sitting on that table can form a new understanding for the problem that they have in hand. They're supposed to co-produce a collective understanding first, and subsequently a collective agreement about the best design quality for a certain competition project. So this is what my research was about. Would you, Purang, please? Yes. So why we are like kind of seeing that transdisciplinary would be like a good idea. Disciplinary thinking as a way to solving wicked problems. And this, we are trying to like just clarify what a wicked problem is. In recent years, researchers started looking at wicked problems that have their roots in diverse or multiple disciplines with the lenses of disciplinarity. So a wicked problem in planning and policy is a problem that is difficult or impossible to solve because of incomplete, contradictory, and changing requirements that are often difficult to recognize. It refers to an idea or a problem that cannot be fixed, where there is no single solution to the problem. And wicked denotes resistance to resolution rather than evil, if you are just wondering why this evil face. So the wicked problems, we look at why we are comparing some problems in the architectural field as wicked problems. Normally, when there is this intersection between social and aesthetic and technical issues, the problems tend to go out of hand, if you can say. So some of that's why you can see, like in most of like architectural research, we tend to use frames of reference from other disciplines, like from literature, from arts, from sometimes engineering, from political science, like I did. So we are trying to help ourselves like define these problems and find the solutions to them. Purang, would you please the next one? So what's the difference between inter, multi, or transdisciplinary? So the term transdisciplinary is still confused with two other relatively recent terms, multidisciplinarity and interdisciplinarity. Multidisciplinarity relates to studying a research topic not just through the lenses of one discipline, but several disciplines at the same time. So as the word itself says, it's multidisciplinary. Interdisciplinarity concerns the transfer of methods from a discipline to another. Like multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity overrides the discipline, but its goal still remains within the academic framework of a disciplinary research, as it is the case with multidisciplinarity. Transdisciplinarity, however, concerns that which is at once between the disciplines, across the different disciplines, and beyond all disciplines. Its goal is to understand the understanding of the present world. Transdisciplinarity relates to the dynamic produced by the actions of several levels of reality at once. To see and make use of these dynamics, it is necessary to master disciplinary knowledge. Transdisciplinary is nourished by disciplinary research. And from this, disciplinary and transdisciplinary research shouldn't be seen as antagonistics, but rather a complementary. So this is just to say that transdisciplinarity doesn't deny the value of like interdisciplinary, like traditional research, to be honest. Purang, would you please the next one? So why are we like kind of promoting? We are not promoting it, to be honest, but we see we are saying why it is valuable to do transdisciplinary research in architecture and built environment research. Transdisciplinary is a problem-solving technique, involves cooperation among different parts of society and academia in order to meet the complex challenges of society. It starts from tangible real-world problems, solutions, and diverse in collaborations with multiple stakeholders, especially when there is multiple stakeholders, as was the case with my research. A practice-oriented approach, transdisciplinary, is not confined to the close circle of scientific experts, professionals, journals, and academics, departments where knowledge is produced through mutual learning. The knowledge of all participants, experts or not experts, are valued and enhanced and included into the dialogue to improve the understanding of a problem in hand. In the process, the bias of each perspective will also be minimized. For meaning of this, when we have like different people sitting on the table, each one with from different discipline with a different point of view, sharing their ideas, like promoting understanding, clarifying their points of view to each other, put them in this state to minimize the conflict between them. So it's more close to consensus or agreement. The next one, please, Porang. Why we think transdisciplinarity is already embedded in design thinking. Transdisciplinarity have appealed to the design scholars as a new in-practice model of research that has great similarities with design. This mode opens for various ways in which the design professions could contribute to knowledge productions. As one of the theorists, Brian Lawson, states that it is possible that architects and designers unknowingly are just ahead of the game rather than behind it after all, because, you know, we've already done that as architects and designers. We've pulled our like frames of reference from other disciplines when we are doing our design or research. Porang, the next one, please. Transdisciplinarity and architectural research. So in recent years, the concept of transdisciplinarity was placed in relation to the call for stronger discipline of architecture. And the Mark Linder argues that it is also related to debates on interdisciplinarity and theory. Here, transdisciplinarity offers a view that is distinct from pervasive notions of interdisciplinarity. It understands the combination of various disciplines as means to establish shared methods and concepts, while simultaneously insisting on the value of distinctly disciplinary identities, tools, techniques, and technologies. Transdisciplinary work is demonstrating the flexibility of disciplinary identities to negotiate between disciplines, produce configured modes of practice, because it continues to use properly disciplined techniques, concepts, and vocabularies, and at the same time is open to the alterations that emerge when they make undisciplined appearance or appear in altered forms in other disciplines. Transdisciplinary in architectural work, whether by architects or others, will both intensify and expand the discipline. Thank you. And this was the electricity went off. The Iraqis are like familiar with this. So, Porang, would you please, the next one? So this is the final slide for me, and I'm leaving the mic to Dr. Piroozfar. This diagram shows that in recent years, the research in architecture are moving towards the upper bit, which is like called mode 2, which is between the intersection between transdisciplinarity and creative practices. So in creative practices, transdisciplinary projects are getting more popular because, as we said before, they sit very well with design thinking. This is it for me, and I'm now leaving the mic to Dr. Piroozfar. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, just I've got a couple of more minutes to just wrap up. So as I mentioned, most of the research that we are doing and I am doing is basically disciplinary research. I'm not claiming that all of that is transdisciplinary. Sometimes it's multidisciplinary, it's cross-disciplinary, and in some occasions they are transdisciplinary as well. In different research organizations that I have either established or I'm involved with, Maverick, Mixed, Augmented, and Virtual Reality Interconnected, No Names, Design Research and Studies, and Digital Construction Lab at the University of Brighton. These are just a perhaps handful of different disciplines and different areas that we are working either collaboratively or cross-referencing them or trying to actually amalgamate and fuse them and then make them work in terms of research that we are carrying out. These are just, some perhaps like a flavor of what we are doing. As concluding comments, so why exterdisciplinarity in architecture and built environment research? Because by nature, architecture and built environment are not intradisciplinary. They are beyond one discipline. The social element of architecture entails an inclination towards lending itself to wicked problems, which, as we saw into the concept of exterdisciplinarity, actually kind of like it lends itself very well into the concept of exterdisciplinarity. We as architects, most of us, or other professionals in the built environment have been doing this for years, if not centuries, across generations and throughout the history in our professional practice. So if we want to kind of just transfer the same sort of like approach in professional practice into research, probably exterdisciplinarity is the only way forward for us. As theory and practice have got a mutual sort of like discourse where sometimes theory feeds into practice, while in other occasions, practice actually provides a vehicle for development of theory. If the practice of and in architecture has been beyond a single discipline, so should the research in architecture be. In this day and age, more and more, another reason, the boundaries between disciplines are blurring and fading out. Therefore, we need to basically resort to research beyond one discipline. The growing complexity of and in our times means that more complex, specific, and challenging problems for us to solve and to face with. So looking at these problems merely and exclusively from within one discipline only limits the solution spaces for the problem. Therefore, the need for exterdisciplinarity and the super specialized nature of the world with unprecedented pace of change in almost anything and everything requires high level of dynamicity, which would only be possible by integrating the specialized knowledge and skills from other disciplines. Thank you very much, and that's it from me. And I would like to open the floor for discussion and questions if there are any.
Thank you very much, Dr. Piroozfar, and thank you, Dr. Nagam, for the presentation. And I will open the questions for the audience. Please, if you have any questions, you may ask.
and I shared the link to the video that I showed. So apologies for the voice not working properly. The sound is probably kind of like, yeah, it's not picking up from the speakers.
Thank you very much for sharing. I have a comment, please. Maybe it's not deeply close to the topic of the presentation, but it's actually one of the goals of our program is inviting the professors from outside our university to join us as like I will say external advisor for our graduate students, or also as the situation of Corona COVID-19, the problem it's continue, and the electronic sessions or classes is running in our campus. So could you join us and help to give some topics or some lectures for the architecture department? Do you have?
I would be honored to do so, yes. I would be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. This is actually the main goal of our presidency in the University of Technology, to bring a new blood to our campus, and also to gain the benefit from the exchanging knowledge with other professors from outside. This will enrich our community and our university curriculum, actually. So I will invite you officially, if you can just like suggest any topics so you would like to make it a class for graduate or undergraduate. And also I will share your contact information with the graduate students, so they maybe contact you if you would like to be a co-advisor or main advisor for them.
Yeah, that's fine. I would probably kind of like liaise with Dr. Nagam in this regard, if you don't mind. So yeah, I would be happy to do that, definitely.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, thank you, Dr. Nagam, also for your time and for the cooperation with us, as you are the coordinator between us and Dr. Piroozfar. I hope everyone. Thank you. I hope everyone gained the benefit of our lecture today. I would like to say thank you for everyone who attended our lecture, and I hope to see you again in upcoming guest speaker webinars. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Piroozfar, and we hope our cooperation to be continued in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me, and it was an honor to be able to talk to such fantastic group of people here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nagam.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Ma salama.